Hey, it's Wacko Bob here again and we're going to be doing another little talk on wrestling here. I haven't done a video since the whole Don Marie thing, and Don Marie, I still stand the way I do against you, but I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about a favorite that we've lost, and this one here really, really gets to me in a lot of ways because he was a favorite of mine. Of course, I'm referring to Buddy Jack Roberts. Because and Not so much that Buddy Jack Roberts was a favorite, but I was a big fan of the Fabulous Freebirds, and a lot of reason why I was too. And Going to pay a little respect to Buddy Jack Roberts with a special show tonight, with this being November 30th of 2012. And Let's go over things. I'm going to do a show. Hopefully, Beautiful Ben will be around for that one. But We'll see. If it does, I can fly solo. Buddy Jack Roberts, like I said, he passed away. I believe he passed away last night. I don't know if it was last night or this morning, but actually, I do believe it was yesterday. In fact, it was. It was November 29th. But that notwithstanding, he was a major influential role in pro wrestling. Aside from what he did as the original one of the members of the original Hollywood Blondes with Jerry Brown, he of course was probably best known for being a member of the Fabulous Freebirds. What a lot of people don't know is he actually did do the Freebirds for a while in the early '80s. I'm going real early '80s here now. We're going 1981, 1982 circus, and pretty much retired from wrestling until the Freebirds showed up in World Class. Then you saw Buddy Roberts show up in the beginning of '83. And when he showed up there in Dallas, Texas, we got to see a totally different Buddy Roberts from what people were normally used to seeing. And I never thought Buddy Roberts ever got to really live up to his potential. Of course, he was called Buddy Jack Roberts for the sake of his love for Jack Daniels, and a lot of things, need to be questioned. Could he have done more? I think he could have. I think they really underrated Michael Hayes as a pro wrestler because he was more the consummate entertainer. But if you compare Michael Hayes to the Ultimate Warrior, Michael Hayes looks almost like Lou Thez in the ring. That notwithstanding, but Buddy Jack Roberts, I think you ought to be looking at both him and Michael Hayes for being the two members of the Freebirds. And I'm looking at this strictly back for the '80s, from like 1983, that period of 1983 to maybe 1987. I'll give them an extra year there. Michael Hayes and Buddy Jack Roberts mainly were ahead of their time, and I think the Freebirds were ahead of their time. Why do I say this? I say this for a few reasons. Number one, the whole thing about three guys holding the tag team titles was more a Freebird idea. I think it was tough to try to for promoters to try to grasp the concept of that, of any two of the three members can defend the tag titles. So they came up with the six-man tag titles instead. A lot that was done mainly through um, I believe the National Wrestling Alliance, and I believe maybe even Fritz von Erich and Gary Hart. I don't think there would have ever been a six-man title if there weren't the Freebirds. But I think that whole concept really started more with the Freebirds than the Russians with Ivan Nikita Koloff and Barry Darso's Crusher Khrushchev. The NWO Wolfpack with Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, X Pac, or Six as he was known as at the time, and they did it a couple times with Randy Savage. I think a lot of that has to be looked at for the Freebirds. Plus, if you look at what the Freebirds were, when you look at a supergroup or a faction, or a faction that strictly was one unit of people, it was the Fabulous Freebirds. Now, no unit is ever perfect. Look at the Four Horsemen. Look at the NWO. But you saw a unit of 3 people that were always together, and technically there should have been 4. Jimmy Garvin came back more during a different time with the Fabulous Freebirds, and I look at that time, and Jimmy Garvin was always, the unofficial Freebird back during the Fabulous Freebirds heyday. But for Buddy Jack Roberts, and to get more to him, he mainly was, in my opinion, ahead of his time and never lived up to that potential. He was always the troublemaker and always the person that would always start the trouble for the Freebirds, and in some cases, a Terry Gordy would have to come in and get him out of trouble. I look at Buddy Jack Roberts, his love for Jack Daniels, number one. Number two, he was not a very flashy guy. Was another one. Number three, his style and everything between his mic skills and his wrestling skills was really was really Stone Cold Steve Austin ahead of its time to me. If you look at the Fabulous Freebirds, they were they were the supergroup faction or unit before the Four Horsemen did it. A lot of people give them credit for that. Michael Hayes was probably more the charismatic Shawn Michaels before his time. Buddy Jack Roberts was more Stone Cold Steve Austin before his time. And the Freebirds were ahead of their time. Terry Gordy was your big enforcer, which of course you got to see later on with the Horsemen when you got down to Lex Luger and in some cases Barry Windham. I think they were looking for that more out of Sid Vicious. And Terry Gordy was not ahead of his time, but he was more right on time. Terry Gordy was the type of wrestler, 70s, 80s, 90s, would have been, the perfect wrestling war machine, for lack of a better word. But Buddy Roberts, mainly, I don't think you would have had a Stone Cold Steve Austin if you didn't have a Buddy Jack Roberts. I really don't. He was the Attitude Era and what you would have expected to see, what you saw in a Stone Cold Steve Austin some 10, 15 years later. They did make him a singles champion while he was with the Freebirds, but that's few and far between. It seemed like the main guy to hold titles would have been Terry Gordy. And Buddy Jack Roberts always seemed to be more the odd man out because I just think there was that misunderstanding because of the times in pro wrestling. And it's sad. It's sad to say it that way. With him, and he is a major loss, and it's sad. I got to see him with what they were able to do with him, with the fact that he had no voice box, and he still talked on the WWE version of the Triumph and Tragedy of World Class Championship Wrestling. But the question is did Buddy Jack Roberts give everyone what they wanted to see, whether he was loved or hated? To most extent, he did, because he always gave you a lot, but he was always the guy that could not clean house and handle things. And like I said, misunderstood. I think Buddy Jack Roberts was a great grappler and an even better brawler when you got into him in the 80s. But Buddy Jack Roberts, rest in peace. You will be missed, and no matter what, Terry Gordy's gone. You're gone. No matter what, the Fabulous Freebirds will live forever, and now all you got left is Michael Hayes. If you want to throw Jimmy Jam Garvin in there, you can. But it's not going to be the same. I thought the Freebirds were at their best when they were world class in the UWF. And I almost think they should have had, if David Von Erich never passed away, I think they would have had, I think you would have seen maybe Jimmy Garvin as an official Freebird back when it was at its height, and it would have worked out well. You could have had Buddy Roberts, a secondary heavyweight champion, the main world champion be Terry Gordy, and you'd see Hayes and Garvin hold the tag team title. In fact, I want some opinions on this one. The Freebirds at their best, with the best members: Michael Hayes, Terry Gordy, Buddy Roberts, throwing Jimmy Garvin in the 80s, and later on, of course, Sunshine. If you could have had those 5 people be the Freebirds, number one, would it have worked? and would have been the Four Horsemen before their time, if you really look at it. If you look at the NWO, you see a lot of the Freebirds in there with the whole black and white and them doing all the spray painting and all that. That was the Freebirds. Look at what the Four Horsemen tried doing in '91 when it was a return to roots and they were in street clothes and everything, going and trying to beat everyone on the streets and everything with baseball bats. A lot of people forget that part with the Horsemen, and it's a very forgettable part of the Four Horsemen. That's when Ric Flair got his haircut, Barry Windham got his haircut. They weren't wearing the nice suits, they were wearing the street clothes. Very forgettable time. Why? Because it was done by the Freebirds. And they tried using that inspiration. The Impact Player is another one. DX. Freebirds. Buddy Jack Roberts, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Rest in peace, Buddy Jack Roberts. I want to know how you guys agree with that.